Hi, I'm Mike Bellevue. I'm down here in the shop, and I'm actually down here filming a video for shooting, but I thought I'd take some time out and just make this this non-standard video for you. As some of you are probably aware, because social media, right, on the internet, it's kind of like the junior high school schoolyard. I mean, everybody's got their groups and they talk and they've got rumors start flying around. And so the latest thing has been gun channels being demonetized on YouTube, right? So, naturally, gun folk are concerned about that. And I've been getting some emails and IMs and that sort of thing saying, well, what's up, Mike? Are you being demonetized? Is your channel going away? And I guess the short answer is not really. And that's kind of why I'm here. I think there's a lot of misinformation out there about the way YouTube handles gun channels. Now, granted, this gun channel's a little bit different, because it mostly handles historical guns. So YouTube does not seem to understand that. Let me tell you. So, when people talk about demonetization, I don't think they really understand what they're talking about. And there have been a lot of concerns that, demonetizing either means the channel's going away or, that sort of thing. And really, it has everything to do with the money and nothing to do with anything else. So there are two bad things that can happen to you if you're a gun channel on YouTube, right? One is you can get a strike against you, which means you willfully violated YouTube's community standards and practices, either a copyright violation or one of their hateful things, hate speech or evil gun stuff, that kind of thing. So a strike is really bad, and a strike usually means that video is out of there. They're going to take it down forever, and they put a strike against you, and 3 strikes, and they take your channel down. Okay, now, the last strike I got was for doing a reloading video. And YouTube used to allow reloading videos, and now they do not. And luckily, I got a bunch of them that are grandfathered. But I had one that YouTube took down. I didn't even know they did. I didn't know why it disappeared. So I put it back up. Whoa, that was a mistake, according to YouTube. So they gave me a strike. As I say, 3 strikes, you lose your channel, right? Now, I don't get a strike for the other older ones because I'm grandfathered on that. So they will take them down if they know about them, but they won't give me a strike and take the whole channel down because when I did them, they were YouTube legal. So, okay. So you can get a strike. That's really bad. Or you can get demonetized, and demonetized means you can't make money off of it. But that's really kind of a misnomer. And I'm going to explain how this works. And this is kind of inside baseball, but you might be curious. A lot of people think that YouTube is run by a bunch of pansy-ass liberals, snowflakes who just hate guns and freedom. And that's true. How about that? Thrown by Google. And those Google guys, they hate conservatives, they hate Republicans, they hate guns, they hate freedom, they love socialism. However, the interesting thing about most big liberal businesses, which all the big tech guys are, is even though they love socialism and they love liberalism and they hate conservatism and they hate tawdry capitalism, they still love making money. Absolutely love it. And they behave in their business life in a way that they would decry in their public governmental life, right? They are very efficient at making money. And that's what they really care about. And that's what YouTube really cares about. So even though they don't like guns, they would still make money off of guns as long as there's money to be made. The problem that YouTube ran into is about 5 years ago, they got boycotted. This started in England, Great Britain. they got boycotted by some activist groups. Like usual, there's only like 5 people in these groups, but they can make it seem with the power of the internet like there's a million. And they went to all of YouTube's big advertisers and said, I don't think you understand what your company's ads are appearing next to. They're appearing next to all kinds of hateful things. And I guess some of them were hateful things, you know, Nazi stuff and awful stuff like that. But okay, but a lot of it was also gun-related. So the big companies, and we're talking about big companies, you know, like Coca-Cola and MGM and all the movie guys, well, they pooped their pants because they don't want to boycott. And that's what they were afraid of. So it ended up they effectively boycotted YouTube. They pulled their ads off of YouTube. Well, then YouTube pooped its pants because, believe me, they love money. Very much. And when the money stopped coming in, they had a coronary. So they went to GQ to figure out how they could make themselves more acceptable to the crazy liberal groups that were running the boycott and get their advertisers back. And that's where they came up with all of these inappropriate categories that they were going to demonetize. Okay, and firearms-related stuff is one of them. But all firearms-related stuff is not demonetized. They have a safe category, firearms used under safe conditions, such as at a shooting range, blah, blah, blah. Now, unfortunately, they got a bunch of awful, you know, you're an awful person category, and any modification done to a gun, that's an awful person, right? So that could be converting it to a flame-throwing, fully automatic weapon, or it could be putting a set of nice stocks on it. It's all the same to them. It's crazy. So I get gigged on that one a lot. Building a flintlock rifle, to them, is exactly the same thing as building, you know, a Ma Deuce 50 caliber machine gun in your basement. Same to them, right? You're building a gun, ooh, evil. So those get demonetized. Manufacturing ammunition, reloading, that gets demonetized. That gets me in trouble all the time because I used to do a lot of reloading videos. I don't so much anymore because I've done just about everything that I reload. However, I do get gigged for crazy stuff. This is probably going to be the next video you see, making paper cartridges for a Brown Bess. They'll demonetize that, right? I mean, to them, there's no difference. I could be making 20 millimeter Vulcan cannon shells with depleted uranium, or these, and it's exactly the same thing to YouTube. Because they're idiots, right? Absolute idiots on this stuff. And they never tell you what you're violating, by the way. They're just crazy like that. So they demonetize probably half of my videos. Now, they haven't demonetized my whole channel, and I've been hearing, you know, YouTube channels are getting demonetized. I don't understand that. I really don't. But I don't doubt that it's possible. I just don't see how it is. Now, for me, they demonetize individual videos. And what usually happens is, it happens when I load it up. They now have ways of going through a video, putting it through their algorithms to see if you're a hateful SOB right off the bat. And they ought to demonetize you, which they do. And then you can go back and you can appeal it and ask for a manual review, which I always do. And sometimes they give it to me, and more often they don't. And there's no rhyme or reason to what you win and what you don't win. But I have not had my whole channel demonetized, as I say, just individual videos. And when they first demonetized videos, just didn't make any ad money at all. Okay, but now things are a little bit different, and at least they're different for me. And I can only speak for me because I don't know how YouTube works for other people. Now, for me, I've been a YouTube partner for about 11 years, I guess. And the way that happens, this is real inside baseball, is you start doing some videos, you get a channel together, and if you're lucky, people start watching them, and YouTube notices that, and they say, hey, how'd you like to show ads on this video right here, this one? And of course, you know, if you say, yeah, sure, they say, okay, and we'll split the money with you. Boom, right? So that goes on for a while, and if they like it, they come back, and this is what they did with me. I don't know what they do now, because I know the metrics and what they expect you to hit for hoops are quite different. But they came back to me pretty early in the game, and they said, how'd you like to be a YouTube partner? And here's the deal. We take a little bit off the top, but after that, YouTube and I split the ad revenue 50-50, theoretically. So, fine, right? So I signed up. And that's how it worked. And life used to be nice. And then, of course, the big boycott hit. And they demonetized stuff. And then they found a way to keep making money, but to stay pretty woke. And what they do is pretty simple. They say that a video, like my awful videos, like making a paper cartridge for a brown vest, oh God, we don't want that news getting out. Well, what they say is that is not suitable for all advertisers, because some advertisers are more woke than others. So what they do is they still offer ads on that video, but they offer them at a discount price to encourage people who don't mind being associated with hateful goons like me to get in the game. So you still make a little bit of money on it. Now, for YouTube, that works out pretty well because they've got like 100 billion people that they've demonetized. If they make a penny off of each one, they're still getting rich. What happened with me is I get about 20% of the revenue that I used to get on those demonetized videos, but I'm still getting some revenue. All right, so it's not like there's no revenue coming in on a demonetized video. And that's why you're still seeing ads on videos that I've been demonetized. And you might hear me say, if you're on Facebook and you follow me, you might hear me say, oh, I can't believe they demonetized this video, you know, of me pointing out the features of an 18th century rifle. Cannot believe it. Well, and you'll say, well, I'm still seeing ads on that. Are they just stealing from you? No. We're still splitting it, but they're giving those ads away for almost nothing, just to make a little bit of money off of it. So, you know, we get a pittance. But on videos of mine that they have not demonetized, then we still get the full split. You know, they sell regular ads. So that's kind of it. So these guys who are being demonetized, they're not totally losing out, but they're probably losing quite a bit. I mean, like I say, I lost 80% of my revenue after the boycott. Just gone. And it's never really come back. Now, the channel has grown quite a bit since then. I mean, we've got close to 90,000 subscribers now. And back when the boycott first happened, we probably had 30,000. So I've actually gotten the revenue back up almost to where it was when I had a 30,000 subscriber channel, which is, you know, so that's something. And there's Patreon. And for those of you who support me on Patreon, thank you very much. It really makes a big difference. Because those are my only two revenue streams for YouTube, is the actual advertiser revenue, which has, a lot of it has gone away, and Patreon, which has filled in the gap. So, you know, everything put together, I'm doing about the same total, a little bit more than I was doing 4 or 5 years ago. Which is, believe me, not enough to retire in Cancun type money. It's not Hickok 45 type money. But it allows me to do things on the channel, and it's important because I'll tell you, and this is just me sharing with you, and if you're bored, you know, go away. But I get people saying to me, well, why do you need to get paid for doing this? I mean, you should just do it because you love doing it. That's the whole idea behind YouTube, is just amateurs sharing their passion. Well, okay. I mean, that may be true, and you know, and I'm sure there are plenty of true amateur videos out there. I know the ones I've seen are kind of crappy. I mean, I was unhappy with a lot of the quality of stuff I see on YouTube that's like Jonah's basement. Let me show you my new gun. Okay. that can be fun for a while. I try to do more involved stuff, and I try to do a lot more historical stuff. And it costs money. It costs a lot of money. And that's what getting the revenue for the channel allows me to do. And it costs money for all the usual things you would expect, like buying powder and balls and flint and, you know, cartridges and all of that good stuff. But also just Duelist Den itself. I mean, I'm kind of lucky. I was a professional magazine writer for like 35 years. I still do it a little bit. But that was only my second job. I worked for the Navy for 30 years, and I was in management, if you will, for the Navy. So I have, now that I'm almost 67 years old, I've got a pretty good pension. I mean, it's not, like I say, it's not enough to retire in Cancun, but it's a pretty good pension. And I got a little bit of Social Security, though Uncle Sam manages to kind of screw me on that one. I get 1/3 of the Social Security that I actually paid into, because they don't want me double dipping, even though I paid into both of my pensions the full amount. I paid into Social Security and I paid into, you know, into my Navy government pension all those years. And working on the side, self-employed, I paid all those taxes. But even though it's not great, it's still enough to buy a box or two of ammo, even at the current crazy rates. So my Social Security, so that's fine. So I've got money to live on. But I really couldn't do a lot of the stuff that I do on the channel. In fact, Duelist Den itself, I bought using a good chunk of my retirement savings specifically to make videos. Because for the first 4 years of this channel, I made videos at the gun clubs I belonged to. I belonged to 3 of them in the area. And I did different things at each one of them. And you know, I was trucking along just fine with that. And then at my main gun club, we had a pretty severe disagreement as to how things should be run at the club. And I found myself on the side of the guys who wanted some changes, and the guys who were the club officers at the time and had been for like 10, 20 years, they didn't like that. And they decided to throw me out of the club based on the YouTube videos. So they went through all my YouTube videos looking for safety violations or violations of the range rules of the club to throw me out. And I realized that I could not be dependent on any club's range to be able to make the kind of videos I want. And that's why I bought Duelist Den, because I can do exactly what I want there because I own it. So I put a pretty big chunk of money into buying that property, and then I put a pretty big chunk of money into turning that into a usable range down there. And I'm glad I did. I mean, I love making videos down there. But that's part of it. You know, guns like the Brown Bess, I buy that full retail. Now, there are some guys who get sponsored. And there are some guys I can tell you who are sponsored who might surprise you because they don't really have gigantic channels. They're not even, well, some of them aren't even really that professional. But some of them are sponsored pretty heavily by powder importers, black powder importers, and by companies like Pedersoli. So I don't do that. Now, I will tell you, I'm not a complete angel. I accept free products sometimes. Now, I get pitched for free products all the time. And you don't see them because, like, even though I always have a tactical flashlight on me, and I always have a knife on me, and I think anybody who's going to walk outside their own house should always have a flashlight, a knife, and a gun on them. However, I don't want to do ads for tactical flashlights on this channel, which is largely devoted to historical firearms. And I don't want to do ads for survival radios on this channel, even though I have a survival radio. So I get pitched for stuff like that all the time. you know, fancy coolers, or a lot of survivalist gear. And I do a lot of preparations myself. I mean, I'm not crazy. I've got food storage, I've got water storage, I've got all kinds of stuff. And not because I think there's going to be the zombie apocalypse tomorrow, but because anything could happen. Hurricanes happen, things like that. And over the years, whenever I was not prepared, I made sure I didn't make that same mistake again, and I prepared for that eventuality. But I don't want to present that to you guys, okay? But what do I get? Well, I get a lot of books. Authors send me books. I read them, and if I like them, I will recommend them, usually on Facebook. Not so much here, but you're going to see a couple of books here before too long that I think are good, and they're very germane to what we do. But apparently my recommendation helps to sell books. And if I like them, I'm happy to tell people about them. If I don't like them, you'll never hear from them again. I just don't mention them. I also get some stuff like bullet molds from Eras Gone. Paper cartridge formers. I've had those from Cliff Manley, from Cap and Ball, from Guns of the West. All to try out, do videos on. If they were not any good, you never would have heard from them. They were all good, so you got to see them. But most of my stuff I buy myself, and there's a real good reason for that. Like recently I did a video on the Polish capper, which a lot of people love. Well, I bought that $50 over the internet just like you would, and I didn't love it. Now, if I was being sponsored by Polish capper, I would not be able to tell you that I didn't think it was that good. And I like to be able to tell you when things are not that good. Now, the stuff that I get, I already know it's good because I've seen their stuff. I knew those cartridge formers were going to be outstanding. Mark Hubbs is a friend of mine, Eras Gone Bullet Molds, and he makes a great historically accurate product. And I would have paid for any of that, which I tell these guys. So you're going to see a video before too long on the Sharps falling block rifle with paper cartridges, right? The actual Civil War type rifle. And that gun had some extensive modifications done by Larry Flees to make the breech block work properly, because none of the replicas work properly, which I'm going to tell you, and I couldn't if Pedersoli was sponsoring me. But Larry gave me a $100 discount on the work because he knew there'd be a video on it and it would be good for him. But I offered to pay the full price for it because I think it's important to stay above board. But when somebody wants to give me something like that, I'm going to take it. So I'm not an angel. I will take some sponsorship. But for the most part, I don't take sponsorship from, say, Swiss Powder. Because if I did, and I got a batch that was no good, I wouldn't be able to tell you. And not keep the sponsorship. Now maybe I'd tell you anyway and give it up. I don't know. I like Swiss Powder, but I am perfectly willing to buy Swiss Powder. And I buy GoX. I buy all the powder I use. And believe me, a number of years ago, I had a batch of GoX that was very bad, and I wrote a magazine article about that. And Mick Farringer, who at the time was the president of GoX, came down on me like a ton of bricks. And I told Mick that I would gladly send him all of my testing notes that was crap. And that's when he admitted to me that they had had a bad batch of charcoal. And I must have gotten some of the powder they made out of that batch. And that he would send me another case of powder to test. And he would await my verdict on it, but that if it was good, he would hope to see in the magazine that they're back up to snuff, and they were, and that's what I wrote. But if they'd been sponsoring me, I wouldn't have been able to tell you right up front that batch was bad, no good. So anyway, that's why I don't accept sponsorship, and I don't play video games. God knows, video games, man, they must have money to burn. They would love for me to play a first shooter game on the channel. And I have nothing against video games, by the way. I just don't play them. When I grew up, we didn't have them. And I've always been able to shoot a real gun anytime I wanted to, and that has been my go-to. So I never really got into them. But people who do, it's just fine. But I'm not going to do something on the channel that I don't do, even though those guys apparently are minting money. It just seems that way. Okay, so that's the deal. I don't know how many channels are being demonetized, but my channel is only demonetized on a video by video basis, and I'm doing okay. And I'm mostly doing okay because of your support on Patreon. And I plan on being around for a long time. I mean, I realize at 67 years old, I can only keep making these videos for so long, right? That there may come a time when I can't get myself out to the range anymore. I don't know, but that time's not here yet. And I still have plenty of great ideas. So you're going to see some stuff coming up. As I said, the 1859 Sharps, there's going to be a lot of stuff on that once I get rolling, because that's a whole new adventure. I've got to cast bullets for it. I've got to learn to make the appropriate cartridges. I got to do a bunch of stuff to get that going. And guys have asked me to do more Civil War stuff. And, you know, just doing a Springfield musket didn't really trip my trigger, but those Sharps I always like. So I'm gonna be giving you the history of that and get into it. I've got more smoothbore stuff coming up. I'm going to be doing a buck and ball test on the Brown Bess. I think is going to be awesome. And I'm going to be getting a English Fowler to shoot. I've got it. It's a 12 gauge. It's beautiful. I've been getting balls and materials lined up, and after I finish the Brown Bess stuff, I'm probably going to start working on that Fowler and on the Sharps, and those will be two things that probably come up next. And there's going to be a couple of book reviews that I think are pretty interesting. One book that I'm using pretty extensively for the Guns of the Texas Rangers. I'm still doing my research and writing a script for that, but I think that's going to end up being quite a good video when I get it rolling. So that's what's going on over here. If you're hearing the demonetization tom-toms beating over the internet, it's not going to really affect this channel any more than it has affected it for the last 6 years. I mean, you know, I deal with those guys all the time, and I have weathered the storm, and we'll just keep dealing with the YouTube wallas, and we'll monetize what we can, and we'll still show you the stuff that we can't monetize. And stuff I have a real hard time with YouTube, I just don't monetize at all. I put no ads on it and just roll it for you. So there are a number of those in the library as well. Okay, so I'm going to see you in a couple of days with a little Brown Bess action. And until then, bye.